let us know. Are we on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. It is just about 5 o'clock, so I think we'll get started. Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Alex Bondren. I'm an account supervisor here at Charles Communications, and I'm here with talented winemaker Adam LaZarre, head winemaker for Cycles Gladiator and all of the Wine Hooligans portfolio. So pleasure to have you, and pleasure to have all of you. And a quick shout out to our fearless leader, Kimberly Charles, who is joining us from Fairhope, Alabama. Hello, Kimberly, we miss you. Okay, so let's get started. So for those of you who are not quite familiar with Adam,
No, I just want to see what I look like.
Sure. Say hi, Adam.
Hi.
So for those of you unacquainted with Adam LaZarre, he is a very talented fellow. He has not only won Winemaker of the Year from the Sacramento Bee, but he's also been called a top 5 winemaker from the San Francisco Chronicle. He's been called one of the 100 most influential people in the U.S. wine industry. His accolades are international, and to date, he is actually the only 3-time winner of the prestigious LA International Wine Competition. So, in addition to Cycles Gladiator, Adam's also known for his Fat Monk, risqué, and his LaZarre wine portfolio. So, I've done enough talking so far. Why don't we hand it over to Adam and tell us a little bit about yourself? And not
Sorry. Adam's stated goal is to what? Anyway, let's look read from this.
No.
My name is
Adam
LaZarre, and I do this. What's that?
Cycles Gladiator.
Okay. Thank you for joining us tonight. So we're going to have some fun tasting to the brand new releases for the wine. Cycles Gladiator is a brand that I started when I used to be the VP of winemaking in the United States several years ago. In fact, it was in 2005, so 11 years ago. And fabulous brand. It replaced actually a brand that we had created called risqué, and sold to a large company. And we had all this great fruit from the Central Coast, and we wanted to create another really cool value brand. And so we ended up with this cycle. This is, a lot of people have asked if this was some type of clever marketing design or anything like that. This is actually a bicycle poster from 1895, roughly mid-1890s, from Paris, France. It's a Gladiator bicycle company, as you see back there. And it's about the time that this poster came out, there were about 150 bicycle companies in Paris. And virtually all of them had these wonderful advertising posters which showed women in various stages of undress, or women really happy riding to the vineyard or down cobblestone streets. And these ads were targeting women, and what this was all about was that at the time, Susan B. Anthony had mentioned in the Paris newspaper that the bicycle was the greatest contribution to women's suffragette because it allowed women to get out of the house. It allowed her to get away from the kids, an abusive marriage, get a job, just get help.
And a reason for them to wear pants,
And
actually. Fun fact, I wrote a dissertation on this, on the advent of the bicycle when I was in college. You may not know that.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, on that note, so women wear pants thanks to the bicycle and Alex Bondren.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
anyway, so it was a really, it was a pretty important step in the evolution of women's liberation. And for those of us who were at home at the time, a lot of us were doing a lot of cause-based stuff. We had a couple of people that really heavily into environmental causes. This really struck a tone with the owners of the company, maybe Han and Billy, the president. Anyway, so we launched this brand, which is essentially leftover risqué fruit. We had stuff from the Central Coast, we had Paso Robles, we had Monterey, and the wine really, really took off. We had, I think we did Chard, Pinot, Cab, Syrah, and Merlot. And we do make a Merlot. I just didn't bottle the 14 Merlot until last week, and so we didn't get it out to you guys. I apologize for that. It was some really rockin' wine. I'm actually thinking it might be the best of the bunch, but sorry.
Well, we will follow up with the Merlot. And actually, everyone participating tonight is also going to receive one of these posters in the mail as a follow-up too. So you'll get a nice little care package along with the Merlot.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you know that I broke the plunger in the men's room a 50 minutes ago.
Great information.
Sorry, Kimberly, I just want to apologize for that. Anyway, so on that note, I joined the company Wine Hooligans. Dennis Carroll, brilliant marketing businessman. Mike Lucan started the Wine Hooligans, and a couple of years ago I got a call from him, and he just said, "Listen, I'm thinking of buying one of your old brands." He didn't tell me at the time what it was, so I was thinking it was actually another brand. And he called me probably about 3 weeks later and just said, "Cycles Gladiator, would you be interested in coming back?" And so few people, winemakers that I know of, have the opportunity to go back and recreate, reinvent a brand that they started. It had moved to the Central Valley when I left Han. They changed the label. They added a whole bunch of SKUs to the portfolio. So it was like DNA, Grigio, Zinfandel. And so when we took it back, we sat and had just a big conference and said, what do we want to do with this? And it made a lot of sense. So first and foremost, to bring it back to the Central Coast. Right. Because you're only as good. I mean, and wines were very good that the Han people were making. I don't want to take anything away from them. But really the identity of the brand was Central Coast, and that's where I live. I live in Paso Robles, California with my wife and kids. And I'm very, very comfortable with the fruit. And so we had an opportunity to work with even some of the same vineyards I've worked with before. We wanted to change the label back to something original, like the original label. They had a kind of prison here in a little tiny circle. Yeah. You remember that, right? And we knocked off some of the SKUs that didn't make any sense. Days ago we have another Zinfandel that we make. We do some other brands where we incorporate some of those varietals. So in effect, we just cut it back to Chard, Pinot, Cab, Merlot, and I actually petitioned pretty hard to keep the Petit Syrah because I just love that grade. And we're working with a couple of really great vineyards. So that's where we are today. That's how this all came about.
The woman has been liberated.
The woman has been liberated.
Yes.
So how many people do we have logged in right now? 12 million?
It looks like we're at 17 right now.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
So, yeah. Hello to everyone. So shall we start tasting some wine?
I think it's a fabulous idea. It is now 6 minutes after 5 o'clock in beautiful downtown San Francisco, where it's already starting to sprinkle a little bit. We're getting ready for a 4-day, 6 inches of rain deluge.
Still needed.
So still needed. So I think we need to get started. So first up is the Chardonnay. So how does this work? Are you getting commentary from
Yeah,
people?
and I'll kind of be checking in, but if you start kind of describing the Chardonnay, then I'll check in and see if anyone has any questions, and then we'll start.
It's yellow.
Back to you. Oh, it's yellow.
Yeah. It's yellow. So anyway, this is the Chardonnay we have 3 vineyards that I work with out of the Livermore Valley. Actually, they kind of bookend Wente vineyards, and then there's one just off about a half a mile to the west of it. And I know these because we work with the vineyard management company as various numbers, like Vineyard A16 and Block 23. They do have names, but I think the owners are Asian, and you have to pull the tongue out of your mouth in order to pronounce their names. One is long, like 30 consonants and like 3 vowels, something like that. Yeah. So actually, being friends with Carl Wente and being a fan of the Wente wines, I thought it would be really good to use the Wente Morning Fog as kind of a benchmark, which I think is very, 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 very good wine. And that's kind of the best that you can make out of the Livermore Valley. So you've got real pretty aromatics. It's got pear and apple, a little bit of stone fruit, and maybe a hint of tropical stuff. And what we did was we took the wines, took the berries in. We picked one of the beautiful things about being able to work with the Livermore Valley is that you pick up acid. And working with Chardonnay. Chardonnay is easily the most difficult wine in the world to make, as evidenced by all that Chardonnay, right? So it's a non-aromatic varietal, which means that it gets the smell and flavors from a bunch of different inputs. When you pick it, how heavy you press it, the fermentation temperature, what type of yeast you use, what type of oak you use, it takes your mallow, and it liberates all the esters and other wonderful components that make Chardonnay. And so really, for something like this, in the Livermore Valley, where the sugars can rise faster than physiological ripeness, with something like Chardonnay, where really most of the winemaking happens in the winery as So it really allowed me to play around with stuff. So it was about 50% malolactic. It was all tank fermented. I ended up taking about 15% down to barrel. I got some new wood. And I just played around with it for the first year working with this fruit. And I really like how it turned out. It was really, to me, it was really balanced. It was acid driven. Again, for me, my evolution as a winemaker from when I used to be at Han, which was my mantra was you cannot over oak anything. So it'd be like 100% new oak. And so, and once upon a time, I think that was kind of the go-to default winemaking style. And I've really backed off on it, and I actually like to drink my wines with food. And when you oak the crap out of it, there's nothing works with it other than nothing else. So.
I was going to say, actually, this is a very fresh interpretation of Chardonnay, and I just want to know if that's kind of coming from 2014. Is that also the vintage? Was it sort of easy to get a lot of acid out of your grapes?
Yeah, it was actually. As you guys know, because you're all professionals and bloggers and people in the journalist business, we had 15 was a really crappy harvest that we lost.
Sorry, Adam, can you speak up a little bit louder?
We need to increase our volume.
Hi, how are you? Testing, 2, 3,
Project.
4. So 15 was a real weak vintage in terms of tonnage. We got half of what? Sorry, 15 was a really weak vintage in terms of tonnage. The previous 3 harvests were pretty big, and 14 was massive, but the quality was fantastic. It was the best vintage, I think, on the Central Coast was 2007. So a lot of the fruit quality was really intense, a lot of acid-driven wines. I think our 15 Chardonnay, I was just tasting it earlier today down at the winery, and I think it's also pretty fantastic too. So starting to dial these vineyards in just a little bit.
Nice.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Can you hear me
Better?
now? Good.
Okay. So we do have a couple of questions so far. First one comes from Dezel Quillen from Northern Virginia at My Vine Spot. Hello.
Awesome.
He says, I see where you have long-term contract with growers for this label.
Yeah.
What are some other factors for maintaining consistency and quality control with value-driven large production wines?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, the key, you nailed it with the first point, is having long-term relationship. Working with a vineyard you've never worked with before, or a new vineyard, you have to go a lot with your gut instinct about how to make the wines, which is great. You can do that, but then it requires a lot of winemaking and a lot of blending. I prefer to be able to work with the same vineyard, so I know what I'm getting myself into year after year after year. And once you develop it, I really think it takes maybe 7 to 8 years to really become comfortable with what a vineyard can deliver, because the weather changes, crop load, there's a lot of inputs that could change your vintage. Obviously, vintages are different from year to year, and every year, and I've been doing this 25 years, and I've never seen, I don't think there's any winemaker who's ever seen 2 vintages that look the same. But again, with something like Chardonnay, which requires, you've got some default things that you do, certain levels, where you press it, what temperature you press it at. There's certain yeast that I like to use, but again, it's when you get a chance to pick on acid, it gives you an opportunity to, when everything settles down in the wine, and when you're building your mouthfeel through sur leaves, this stuff sat sur leaves for a year. And that's one of the things that I like to do with my whites, is leave it on the leaves, cycle the tanks, batonnage, just develop this rich, creamy mouthfeel over a period of time. And that in itself can mitigate any slight difference changes. So, but again, it's really about the flavor. If I'm working with Monterey fruit, then you got a lot of tropical stuff. You got to figure out how to work each other.
Right. Any favorite food variants with the Chardonnay?
Oh, yeah. I string cheese. I like buttered popcorn. In particular, I'm a seafood fanatic. So I like a lot of whitefish, like halibut. I like. I built this wine primarily, I think, in terms of food as I'm putting the final blends together. Is, bring these wines home. I'll have all my little sample bottles, and I'll set them on the counter, and my wife and I will prepare a dish or something like that, and we'll try different foods and stuff and see what works best with it. But for me, I think maybe halibut, I like cod. Obviously chicken and creamy pasta dishes. So
You didn't eat lunch, so now we're not just watering.
I know, I had a bag of Pete's coffee popcorn at 80 calories, and I think that's the first solid food I've had in 3 days. So.
But that actually reminds me, so Adam is a talent with white wine, and a lot of that is attributed to just his past experience, interestingly enough, in the Navy, which I always think is kind of, it does. I mean, it informs a lot of your winemaking, your time that you spent in Seattle Station, or eating all the great seafood that they have, so kind of a testament to how where you live really affects.
Yeah, well, that's a romantic story, but really it was about bringing grape juice on board the ship and sneaking yeast and sugar in there and making bilge wine.
And that's not a romantic story?
Well, when you're with 530 other guys, it's probably not a romantic story.
I have a feeling these guys would find that story romantic.
Okay, that's right.
Okay. Let's see, we're getting a lot of great comments about the Chardonnay. Randy Fuller says there's a really nice oak effect there. It's very pleasant flavors. Let's see, the very recognizable Wente clone Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice fruit and spice, great acid. And then a question, how much control over vineyard practices do you have? And that's coming from Pull That Cork out of Stockton, California.
Hi, Pull That Cork, how are you?
Nancy Brazil.
Hi, Nancy. I've actually got your names in front of me here, and I'm going to start making fun of everybody, but I figured I'll wait.
We'll wait until the petites are
We'll wait until the petites are raw, and then we're going to be really loaded, and it won't even make a difference.
Yeah.
So I have a whole bunch of control. The agreement that we have with our vineyard management company is that I get into the vineyard, and I don't claim to be any. I certainly don't believe that I'm any smarter than a really talented vineyard manager, and they have several of them on this team. But I work very closely with them, and I essentially tell them what I'm looking for in acid and flavors, and we sit and kind of strategize about crop load, watering, leaf pulling, sun exposure, to try to maximize flavors. I'd like on my reds, I want thicker skins, but I don't want them fruity. I don't like I used to think everything really overripe, and I scratch my head now at some of the stuff that I used to make. Finished up at 17 alcohol, 16 alcohol. Those are great aperitif wines. But if I'm going to have an aperitif, I'm going to have a whiskey. Yeah. I do have control. The most important decision that a winemaker can make, the most important winemaking decision anyone can make, is the day that you pick. The picking decision. That is everything. And it can be 1 or 2 days too late. So I have a very tight window that I work with, and I usually will see the picking date coming up, and I'll try to give it 2 weeks notice so they can start scheduling picking crews and stuff. And then a week's heads up, and then I try to get out there a day in advance and just make sure I'm not missing something. Picking up green bean, or all of a sudden in the low, like, oh, gotta hold off.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
All right.
Cool. Let's see. Any last questions about the Chardonnay?
It's a pretty picture. What's that?
Yeah, right? So one won't get. She bought the Cycles Gladiator sign when Alabama banned it in solidarity with Cycles Gladiator.
Awesome!
That is a pretty cool story.
Dude, that rocks.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
And as Kimberly can now attest, as she's in Alabama as we speak, this would still probably be very much banned in Alabama.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Brittany. That's nice of you to say that. Again, I used to oak the crap out of everything, and you could stand a fork up in it, but I've really backed off, and I've become really, I think my personal preference has changed from being these really big, oaky, buttery style of Chardonnays to being more, again, acid-driven, fruit-driven, wine or food-friendly type of wine.
Great. Should we move on to the Pinot?
Yeah, let's move on to the Pinot.
Perfect.
So the Pinot Noir is an interesting wine. It comes from 2 different vineyards that I get to work with. One is the Chular Canyon Vineyard, which is in northern Monterey County, which incidentally used to be owned by the Hahn family. It's owned by one of the French owners now. And it's northern Salinas Valley, just to the east in a canyon. It is probably the northernmost Monterey vineyard in the Salinas Valley. And it produces Pinot Noir, and I'd worked with it before. It's very, very light in color, tons of acid, very perfumey, not a whole lot of structure, but it's really, really delicate. And traditionally, it's not how I I will play to the strength of the Pinot Noir. Again, with Pinot Noir, you're only as good as the fruit that comes in. As a winemaker, you can only F it up, in the winery, where you can do things with Chardonnay and Cab to make the wines better than the fruit that came in. You can't do that with Pinot. And the balance comes from the Los Alamos vineyard down off the Highway 101, Santa Barbara. It's just west of the highway. And gets a really good ocean influence. And the stuff comes in kind of like a little blood-force trauma. It's pretty intense. And so it was interesting because I asked on Facebook, as I was putting the blend together, what people would like in style. I could go really hard, very one-dimensional cherry, cough syrup, or I could do something light and delicate and
so you crowdsourced?
I crowdsourced this blend. Well, I wanted, because it was, again, these are, to the question we had before, I had never worked with these vineyards. I'd worked with the Los Alamos Chardonnay, and I'd worked with Chula Canyon, but I didn't know this was my Pinot that I had to work with. And so how I was going to take this. And I opted, in complete contrast to my typical styles, for a much more delicate, aromatic,
and is that
a
what
little
people
leaner.
wanted?
I think that was probably about 4 to 1. People were just like, go for the pretty,
Wow.
So.
The evolution of the American palate. And it's interesting to me that you say that this doesn't have a lot of structure, because to me it does. It's just all kind of right at the front. It's
Well, that's a Los Alamos.
Yeah.
And that's probably, I can't remember what it's 15 or 20% to it. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the thing, when the more delicate the Pinot Noir, the less you can manipulate it. Yeah. It tends to be a little more, from grape. For the Pinot, my ingredients were 3 things. It was grapes, yeast, and wood.
And James Melendez from San Francisco is asking what the clonal selection is for the Pinot.
Oh,
Shoot!
Yeah. Yeah, actually there's a drinking game going on right now. It's how many, everyone has to take a shot every time I'm like ready to drop the F-bomb or
and then I just
S-bomb,
cut
and
in
then they
and
have
say,
to cut
gosh
in.
darn it!
So the Chula Canyon stuff was older. I think it was Martini, and which is probably why it only ripens up once every 4 years correctly. And it wasn't 777. Oh, sorry. I know what it is. I'll get back to you. Los Alamos is a blend of all the designer Dijon clones. There's 777. There's 113, 115, 667. I think there's Jackson in there. So it could be any one of a combination. I don't know exactly. I think I probably ended up, because I ended up going by block, and I'm not sure they were all, a lot of it was replanted. I figure I might have a hodgepodge. It's kind of like DRC. It's like when you ask Aubert de Milan and what clones do you have there, I don't know. Whatever.
So this is the proper Burgundy method, not being 100%.
Yeah, this is the proper Burgundy method. Yeah,
Exactly.
but we're not growing little bonsai grapevines, at 3 degrees south of the Arctic Circle. In Burgundy.
Okay, so Jenna Francisco from Sacramento is saying that it's very hard to find a less expensive Pinot that actually seems like a Pinot. How do you actually maintain these prices with such quality?
All these wines are line priced.
Yeah.
And I can tell you it's probably because our accountants are very, very, very good. So if I were to take a guess, I don't know what it costs to make a bottle of Pinot. Our CFO does, and of course our CEO Dennis knows. And it may be that we're not making any money on the Pinot, but we're making more on the Chard, or something like balancing it out. I think it's just again we picked up a really good vineyard partner, and we're just getting the fruit. I mean, there's fixed costs for farming. It doesn't cost any more to farm Pinot Noir than it does Cabernet. And so, I think a lot of the prices you see for Pinot is really more of what the market will bear, as opposed to anything else. So, and that was like the unsexiest answer I could actually give, and I apologize for that, but I'd like to say something different.
Okay, you can try better at this one. Brittany Curran is asking, hello Brittany, how did you choose the 2 vineyards for the grapes that went into the Pinot?
Well, I had a choice of 3, and I because Los Alamos has a very big, intense flavor, kind of a dark cherry flavor, and I just thought it'd be really fun. I hadn't worked with Chula. The Chula Canyon vineyard was sold, I think, in 2004. And I only had literally a year and a half to work, or 2 years to work with it when I used to run Honest Face. And so I really wanted to, I just wanted to try it again and see. So it was really just a flip of a coin. So there's anything more than that. I had no idea what it was going to develop. But I had to make the commitment early in the year because Pinot was strong. Yeah. And a vineyard guy needed to sell grapes to other people. And so I said, okay, this is where we're going to go.
So have you crowdsourced Facebook to see sort of what the reaction has been to this, or has anyone been able to taste it?
I think it was just literally just been released like within a month ago.
This is the exclusive.
Yeah, you guys are some of the first people to get it.
We're crowdsourcing as we speak.
Yeah, so your feedback is actually very important. I'm actually reading over her shoulder.
Yeah.
Getting some.
Cool. Yeah, so it's just like the Chardonnay clip says, the reduced new oak usage is very welcome.
I know. Everyone was telling me that, and I can't believe I didn't do it sooner. But it was a style. With Rex Goliath, we oaked everything, and it was such a huge success. 0 to 500,000 cases in less than 2 years, and but the American palate has changed, and a lot of that had to do with with the drive for these unoaked Chardonnays and these naked style wines. And of course, you guys and a lot of the journalists and media got on board and like, let's taste the fruit. Yeah. And so I think oak should always be just in the background now, and use it as a structural component. Yeah. If you can smell it just a little bit because it works, but it's really meant to lift the fruit if you do it in the right way.
Yeah, it seems like it's actually kind of coincided with the rise of the popularity of the restaurant, especially with all the TV shows and the cooking shows and everything that's just become so fetishized now. I think people are starting to have a more intellectual understanding of wine's role in enjoyment with food and sort of enjoying it almost as a condiment instead of something that's just going to take over the entire meal.
You said fetish.
I said fetish. Uh-oh. I've opened Pandora's box. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize.
So,
anyway.
So on to the next. Unless anyone has any other questions or comments about
let's see.
Little Lord Jesus dressed in velvet pantaloons. Yes.
Probably my favorite
that was one,
tasting of all time.
Yeah, you know what? I used to write my tasting notes on about a half a bottle of tequila, and therefore that's why they were always so pretty crazed. And I don't do that anymore. I've changed to bourbon, actually.
And why nervous?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah, but don't feel free with any criticism you guys have too, because
he can take it.
I can take. Well, but I mean, it's I don't. I'm never satisfied with any of my wines, and I'm my biggest critic, my worst critic, and we go to bottle like we did this last week, and I stay up. I'm up like 1 or 2 in the morning, just stressed out of did I pull it from the barrel too soon? Did I not do this correctly? Did I, did the cab get 2% too little Merlot in the blend? And I'm always stressing out over it. But
like a true artist.
No, yeah, the tortured artist.
Tortured artiste. Okay, let's move on to the Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh yeah. I really like. You know what? In contrast, I actually like how this one turned out. I was very, very happy. A lot of the fruit for this came from Collier Canyon Vineyard, which is also in Livermore. I had some Paso Robles fruit that I worked with. Southern Monterey County Indian Springs Vineyard, which is as far south in Monterey County. If you go any farther south, you cross the hill and you're in a bunch of Paso Robles vineyards. But really, the base of this wine is Collier Canyon. It's this large vineyard. I think it's about 150, 200 acres total. And if you're heading from Oakland or San Francisco due east to Stockton, you passing through Livermore, you see there's the airport on the right, and you look up on the hill, and it's this big, beautiful green belt up on the top of the hill. And it's all vertical chute positioned. It's trellised. It looks just like you're driving down Highway 29 in Napa. I mean, you can cut a piece of paper on the top of the canopy. And it's 2.5, 3 tons to the acre. It all has to be picked by hand because of the hills. A tractor would hold down the hill and kill everybody. Right. And so it took almost a month to pick this vineyard clean, vineyard lot clean. They can only get to 1 truck a day. So what I did was we actually made the decision to start picking a little underripe, where there were still some green notes, some more bitter, harsh green tannins in it, but really a lot of bright acid. And then we finished with a little bit of overripe, so a little more pruny, lower acid, obviously higher pH, some fat plummy components, and we just kept pitching the tank into the fermentation. So literally, this is like a month and a half long fermentation, and we kept building up on it. And I just had a sense that if you can do your blends in the vineyard, all better.
Yeah.
You know, and so I've never worked with the vineyard, but my gut instinct was that was the right thing to do, instead of keeping a lot separately. And so I'm really, really happy. I blended a little bit of Syrah, a little bit of Merlot into it. Just the Syrah adds, it was some really black fruit, and it was a little one-dimensional. And so adding a little bit of Syrah, added some red fruits into it, a little raspberry, which I think always kind of lifts up some of the current. And the Merlot is just all about mid-palate. So.
It's interesting because I could have sworn that there was some Cab Franc in there, but that might have just been sort of the earlier picks coming through. But it's that sort of beautiful floral, I think, complexity.
You know what? I'm not afraid of a little green streak over my wines anymore.
No.
Having made Bordeaux wines from the San Lucia Islands when I first started in Hahn and Smith & Hook, I'm really sensitive to pyrazines and bell pepper.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit in your Cabernet Franc, a little green streak over your Cab. I'm really scared, your Merlot, but I'm really scared of the Cabernet. But I think more. I talk to people. There are a lot of people at MSs I've talked to and MWs who really actually look for that as kind of a benchmark for their Cabernets.
Yeah, I think it just adds that level of complexity, and you're not going to get it, overly ripe fruit bomb if that little element is in there. So.
And it's acid.
There is acid. I know it's hard for me to talk after try out a sip of wine. Cool. Okay, let's see what people are saying.
Your wine sucks. What?
No, I don't think so. What's a nice personal touch that sticks out to you when selecting a vineyard? Another great question for Brittany Curtin.
I like row orientation. I'm a fan of north-south rows. I'm not a big fan of bilateral cordons because I don't think you can get even ripening on both sides. But in California, particularly Livermore, Paso Robles, where it's sun from morning to night all the time, I think it's important to get even ripening because I don't necessarily. It's one of the things that adds expense to wine that people don't think about is when you have these big sloppy canopies, and especially doing east-west, is that one side of the vine gets ripe a lot quicker than the other. And so when my last winery, Villa San Juliet, I would have to have them go through to east-west, and we would pick in the south-facing side first, then have to bring in a crew a week later or 2 weeks later when the other side caught up with it and pick through, and that adds an enormous amount of expense to the cost of the wine. So I look for a north-south orientation or something similar to that. I really like to see the care in the canopy. I recognize that we suffer from things like sunburn, so there has to be a little bit of coverage, maybe 60% as what I look for. So it's kind of like modified, they call it modified bilateral trellis system. And I'd like to know who's going to be taking care of the vineyard. And it's got to be someone who is as passionate about wine and about his babies as I am.
Yeah.
So.
How often are you out in the vineyard, would you say?
Not often enough, because our company has been exploding. So I was spending more time in the winery than the vineyard. But really, once July rolls around, I start to hit the vineyards about once a week. August, I like to hit them twice a week. I want to get it once. I look at numbers just to kind of get a sense for where we are. And then once we get through full veration, I toss all that lab stuff out and I just go completely on flavor. So you have to get in almost every day taste.
Yeah, unprecedented too at the scale. So kudos.
I mean, it's
got
my name on the label. I don't have a choice. Yeah.
Kudos. All right, we do have a couple more questions. Denzel Quillen, again, great question. Can you please give us your thoughts on the never-ending closure debate? I see you using rotating closures on all four.
Yeah. I
think many people, particularly millennials, look for good wines at fair price points and don't care whether it's enclosed with plastic caps or natural cork.
You know, he asked me this 10 years ago and I was not a fan of screw caps. I think the technology has gotten to the point now, because screw caps 15, 20 years ago You could taste the plastic seal that was in there, and they often didn't seal correctly, and the machinery that was used, and just the quality of the screw caps themselves. I mean, you found them on a bottle of Thunderbird, or you found them on a bottle of something cheap. But the quality now has gotten to the point where I'm very, very, very comfortable. We have adapted in the wine industry, particularly myself, adjusting. You know, wines can get reduced when they're sitting under a screw cap. There's absolutely no oxygen transfer at all.
Right.
And so what we'll do is, one of the little tricks we do is we'll actually inject some dissolved oxygen into the wine right before bottling.
Okay.
So it gives it an opportunity to just open up a little bit. It'll reach a point where it won't anymore. But you know, the real key thing was the restaurants, where 10 years ago you couldn't walk into a restaurant. You know, they had to have the ritual of pulling the cork, and that was part of the tip. That's part of what the sommelier did now. And I've seen sommeliers now that can take this bottle, roll it down their sleeve, and catch the screw cap in their hand. Is the coolest thing. So I don't think the consumer, unless you're buying a $100 bottle of wine, I don't think anyone really cares anymore.
Yeah, and for by the glass too.
And I like to go to. I'm also done. I'm over completely. Standing up in front of a bunch of somms, giving a presentation where all my wines are corked, or doing a winemaker dinner, and having to, explain what cork taint is. So I don't want to have to explain that ever again.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
So.
Great, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the wine that Starbucks will be featuring?
Yeah, actually, Starbucks is going to be serving wine. How about that? So yeah, we got notice that in Michigan, where they're going to be opening up a bunch of these this summer, the Cycles Cabernet has been selected as the house pour at Starbucks in Michigan. How cool is that?
So dark roast, but
Yeah.
great. Okay, quickly. It looks like a few people are moving on to the Petit Syrahs. We're going to catch up with you.
Petit Syrah time?
Yeah, it's Petit Syrah time. Watch out.
All right. Okay, so the bourbon question. What is my favorite bourbon?
Yes.
Man, I have a bunch of them. I really, when I can afford it, I like Willett's. But I think if I'm looking for a good, inexpensive bourbon, I'm a fan of the Evan Williams. And but I think generally, I like the Bullet Rye, and also Buffalo Trace. I really like Buffalo Trace too. We do a lot of work in Kentucky. When I go there, I always make sure I spend an inordinate amount of time in Louisville, because everyone has bourbon bars. Every house you go into a place and will have 40 or 50 selections.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I love my bourbon.
And are you a purist, or can you do it in a cocktail? Uh-oh.
I prefer to do it. I appreciate a good Manhattan.
Yeah.
Or an old fashioned or something like that.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to enjoy bourbon, it's going to be room temperature, maybe a little chilled. But yeah.
Remember that, ladies.
Great.
Just kidding. Anyway. Okay, Petit Syrah.
So Petit, yeah, this also comes from the Livermore Valley. We have 2 vineyards up there, and we have one in Paso Robles that we work with. And it is, as was pointed out, someone had made a comment that they were glad that it's not 100% Petit Syrah. And I am too, because Petit is like blueberry motor oil, and this stuff will just stain your soul, I guess. It's really, Petit Syrah to me is one-dimensional, no matter where it's grown. And it can be so intense and so tough and aggressive that it's really not a particularly sexy wine. And so what I do is, and this is something I've been doing for probably about a decade for the Petits that I make, we take some really nice cool climate Syrah, we get our Syrah. We don't make a Syrah under Cycles Gladiator, we do a little bit for export to, I think, England or Germany or something. But the Syrah's purpose in life is really to blend in the Syrah. And we get it from the Rancho Arroyo Grande vineyard, which is Arroyo Grande by Lopez Lake. And it's beautiful, fresh cracked pepper and like raspberry syrup. And what it does is it adds another layer of flavor to the Petit Syrah. It breaks up the monotony and the tannins. It brings a little acid back into it, because Petit, when it's physiologically ripe, it tends to be a little higher in sugar, hence the 15 alcohol, or a lot of them are up 17 or 18. And it just makes it a more food-friendly wine. I think to me, it's just more interesting. Again, the Petite Sirah we do is small production compared to the other varietals we do. And so I really do this for fun. And I love working with Petite Sirah. And I recognize it's not huge around the rest of the country. But I'll tell you, my favorite food pairing outside of Sauvignon Blanc and steamed clams is Petite Sirah and blue cheese, the black and blue burger. And you take blue cheese, take a bite of that, and with all of its saltiness and that blue cheesiness, and you take a sip of Petite Sirah, it knocks all the tannins and everything out. All you taste is like blueberry filling, pie filling. Or if you're like one of those hostess pies.
Oh,
What are they called?
I can't remember. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, but the blueberry one, you suck the middle out. That's exactly what it tastes like. And so if you're going to do it with a dish, you make a black and blue burger, and Petite Sirah is like the bomb.com. Effing awesome.
The thing I always want to know about Petite Sirah, and when I have a good one, it's delicious. I mean, it's mouth-watering. It's hard to talk after I take a sip of it, to be honest.
It'll mess you up.
But why do you think it hasn't really caught on as sort of a really popular variety in the way that, the rest of the Bordeaux, variety?
I think it's because it tends to be one-dimensional, and it's not something you compare with a lamb dish or compare with ham or chicken or anything. I mean, Cabernet, particularly Merlot, are very flexible wine when it comes to food. Petite Sirah is pretty much just kind of like the blunt force trauma. It's an aperitif or a really heavy steak, or a burger, or something you don't care about if you're having pizza and hot dogs or something like that. And it's something that finishes you off at the end of the night. Because once you have Petite Sirah, there's not a lot more you can go back to except for maybe port or bourbon.
Indeed. So, I don't know, I guess which your favorite of these 4 wines that we've tasted through so far? You gotta pick one. It's like Sophie's choice.
This week or next week? I don't know.
This week.
I'm really digging how the Cabernet's tasting.
Yeah.
Again, these are all pretty fresh wines. Just recently, I think Petite Sirah was bottled only 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
And so it's still going to open up, and I think some of the red fruit's going to pop out and evolve. But the cab, to me, I really like how it's tasting.
It's like leaping out of the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's going to evolve. You guys got these. We've been pushing back this brand live session for a couple of months as I was getting this stuff into the bottle. We didn't want to send you something right off the bobbin line. And we'd be reading comments like, well, it doesn't have any smell or flavor, but it's really pretty in color.
Right. Cool. Well, we're kind of winding down, so any last questions that you guys might have, don't hesitate to go ahead and ask them. I know, Anna, you had some that our director, Anna Rosselli, kudos to her in the back. She is helping us out on the back end. So yeah.
So what are some difficulties you experience when producing wine in the Central Coast?
Getting pulled over by CHP on my way to the Livermore Valley. No, yeah, really, actually, it is a real problem for me. The Central Coast, the beautiful thing about the Central Coast is the weather is very, very consistent from year after year. We have these weather patterns that come in, and you guys see this on the news, on CNN. You see the Russian River and that river flooding and vines going down and stuff going on.
Right.
We don't get that. And it either hits Santa Barbara and south, and it splits where we are. So it's very consistent. I think one of the problems we've had in the past are late spring. We always seem to have rain in the middle of bloom, when the little baby flowers come out and knock the pollen off. But having these 3 or 4 week of straight 100-degree weather, and what it does is it drives the sugars up to really abnormal, but the flavors aren't there, and so it's calming the vineyard guys down. We don't need to pick it just because it's 25. Just wait, and it always works. Every year, temperature drops around mid-September, and the sugars drop back down, and all of a sudden everything comes into balance. We've had really, several good years in a row. I get to review wines for the International Food and Wine Society up in London. I do the Central Coast reviews, and we've haven't had really a bad year for a while. So I think difficulty, like I said, is we're in a drought right now. But despite that, most people are unwell, so the vines are getting water, and I think the quality has gotten better because now the vineyard manager can monitor and put on just the amount of water that it needs. We're not relying upon rain to dump on it, because when we used to have wet seasons before, it would always rain for 2 weeks during harvest, and so your grapes would come in waterlogged and really low sugar, and you have to deal with that stuff. But the drought, in some respects, I think has driven the quality of wine. That didn't even answer your question, did it? I was like totally digressed and went the other piece for
It's interesting though. And Anna, my feed has frozen, so any other questions that are coming in, you're on.
All right. Why does Cycles Gladiator use twist off caps instead of a cork?
Because we don't. Yeah, because I don't want to deal with cork taint. These wines are served by the glass at restaurants, and they need to be able to turn them over quickly. And I think the consumer has adapted to screw caps very, very well. So for me, it's I like being able to go to sleep at night knowing that none of my wines are going to be corked ever, under this label. I do use cork for other projects. I have some stuff I do under my brand at the higher end, and we do some stuff. We do a brand called Goyette, which we keep under cork, which is at the higher end. But we've also adapted. There's different types of corks now that we can use. We don't use synthetics, but we use ones that have been treated to make sure the cork doesn't leak out.
The ladies have enough problems being jammed in the bottles. So.
Yeah, we love a naked redhead, right? Hi, honey. Speaking of.
So yeah, I am also having problems of frozen feed, but I do see a question here from Basil. What are the approximate production numbers on these wines?
Boy, that's a moving target. I'd say that it's really hard when you're growing quickly. But I would say that this year we're probably going to be doing. Hopefully we're going to grow to about 5,000 cases on the Syrah. I've got the wine in tank, so I'd love to be able to do that. And the Cabernet is probably going to be maybe 12 to 13. The Pinot Noir is going to be the same. The Pinot and the Cabernet run at the same sales rates. It's always been, even back in my Han days, it was always Pinot and Cab running neck and neck. And the Chardonnay is doing well. So that's going to be probably maybe about 7,000 cases. I'd like to see more because I really like this fruit, and I'm really looking forward to what 2016 brings me. I have some experimentation I'm going to do with it, so I'm going to have some more things I'm going to play with.
Stay tuned. Dezo Pullen, I'm just getting this number on my phone, is saying he's a big Gunsmoke fan, so he says, call that beautiful woman Miss Kitty.
Nice. I said, my mom was a Hollywood or Broadway actress, but she actually did some episodes of Gunsmoke.
Whoa! Did you know that?
She was a whore on the couch. But whatever. Yeah, you know her, right? But she acted. Not making this up. She was actually in Gunsmoke. That's really cool.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, unless anyone has any other questions coming through on the Twitter feeds, for some reason our actual brand line feed is a bit frozen, so apologies for that. But you can always just tweet at us or send us an email if you have lingering questions for Adam. We can pass those along to him. It's been a pleasure to have you tonight, sir.
I'm sorry about your pleasure.
Sorry about our plunger, Kimberly. Well, thank you.
Could be a problem later on.
Moving along.
It was a total pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. I haven't been up to San Francisco in probably 3 years because driving just scares the crap out of me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I have New York City, no problem. LA, love it. Bring it on. But San Francisco is just nuts.
Maybe we'll make him do an hour-long brand night just on the Merlot with the poster.
Yeah, I'm digging Merlot.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys also for joining us and spending time. And the questions were great, and the comments were great. And you guys can reach, anytime you guys can reach me directly if you have any questions or concerns or comments. It's LaZarre at winehooligans.com. Please feel free to reach out at any point. We've got an open door policy for anything to do. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Wednesday and wine week, and we are signing off from Charles Communications in San Francisco.